So, as Mark would say, it's 6:32, Majira Masa, yeah, East Africa. My name is Dana Seda, standing in for Mark Masai. This is the Social Newsroom, and today we are glad to have a big audience of people who are interested in discussing how Nairobi can change, what Nairobi can be, and Nairobi ni Nani. Who was this city really made for? And before we go very far, let me introduce you to my co-host today, the pleasure of Mr. Danish Odongo.
My name is Danish Odongo, aka the son of Kano, and I'm excited to have this conversation today, Dan.
Yeah. It's nice to see you. Maybe we can start by having some of the members of our panelists just give a short introduction of themselves, and then we can get the conversation starting with the lady right there.
Thank you very much, Dan. My name is Stella Mirito. I am part of the Political Leadership and Governance Program, which we call PLGP, Alumni Network, which is a network of young people who are interested and very invested in the political leadership of our country, and very happy to be here this evening.
Yeah, you can clap and appreciate. And then maybe let's go this way to Prof.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm Professor Alfredo Menya. I wear a number of hats. I'm largely a sustainable urban development expert. I'm also a social justice activist. I'm an architect at some point. There we were with Dan. Yeah, but more interestingly, I've been part of the core team that has been working on the Just City in Kenya. I think that's a publication most of you are holding there. We conceptualized it and we continue working on different aspects of that. Thank you, Dan. Nice to have me.
Thank you. Yeah, we can appreciate my teacher. And then maybe right there we can start with Mahesh.
Thank you so much. My name is Robert Alai. I'm a social justice activist and also MC in Nairobi, Kilaleshwa, in Nairobi County.
Yeah.
Very
Then right next to Mheshimiwa.
Asante sana, habari ya jioni.
Salama.
My name is Elizabeth Manini. I'm a communication liaison person for the Kenya Network of Women and Girls with Disability, where we advocate for issues of women and girls with disabilities in the community because they continue being left behind and being marginalized in the community. Thank you so much for having me here.
Okay, it's a great pleasure to have everybody here. We'll be beginning this conversation by actually just looking at the history of Nairobi. Back at the University of Nairobi, there was a lot of conversation, as Mwalimu, who's my teacher, used to tell us that this city was first designed as a railway city, based on the railway. Some of the challenges that the designers at the time is that they never, ever anticipated that this city would need to be an equal city or a just city, because they were designing for a colonial master. And so by design, they had segregated the city, and there are situations where people, they never anticipated that people would actually need services. And some of that legacy is still with us right now, because you find that we are struggling with things that were back in 1895, sorry, 1920, issues are still here when we did our first cities. When you think about this legacy and how it affects us, and we're having this conversation 1 week after the king,
The colonizer.
Maybe we can start the conversation with you, Stella. What do you think are some of the ways that this legacy of Nairobi still affects us right now, in your view?
Yeah. So I think it's to first start with the fact that the colonial legacy is founded on capitalist systems, which are not inclusive, yeah, and which actually are not sustainable in the fact that gender roles and privileges manifest in these capitalist systems. And so women are left, and we continue to see how that reflects in our day-to-day life now. And men, of course, were the ones making decisions that actually affect women. But even now, and based on our work as the PLGP Alumni Network, we see how men also do not understand how these gender roles and privileges affect them as men. And one of the things that we've seen in our work in the public transport as the Alumni Network is that the public transport is very much male-dominated. And so women who work in the public transport are stigmatized, and they face a lot of violence, not only from their colleagues, their male colleagues, but also from passengers. But even men who work in public transport actually do not know how to handle female commuters or even female transport workers in the sector. So there's very much, based on this colonial legacy and the capitalist system, there's very much a big gap in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, but mostly in terms of patriarchal norms and cultures that affect both men and women. But mostly women are disadvantaged. And we'll talk about sexual harassment later. We'll talk about accessibility and affordability and how that is affected by these gender norms.
Yeah, so a round of applause for Stella. I like that. You know. But then I think so that we just ground this conversation. So Prof, perhaps you can help us make sense. Is this city working? Is this city working or not? If it's working for who? If it's not working, who then suffers most, Prof?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And one of the things that, one of the questions we've asked in the past is that if you move around the city, whom do you see?
Okay.
And more importantly, if you move around the city, whom don't you see? And I would agree totally with the sentiments that have already been expressed, that Nairobi works for an extremely small group of the population. As Dan said right at the start, this was a city that was not designed for human beings at all. First, it was just the goods that were moving around, and then everybody who came to the city was criminalized, including even the Indians. Of course, the whites were here, but they were it really wasn't their home. They lived out of the city in places like Karen and in places like Westlands. That was out of the city. So the city was never really designed for humans. And that legacy continues today. We never really think about the humans of Nairobi. In fact, a friend of mine visited me the other day and described Nairobi as an over-glorified human zoo. This is a place where we ask, which is this population, which is the demographics? Tell me, where are the children in the city? Where are they? Do you ever see them? Zoo. They're hidden in some cars, and then they're taken to the zoo. Where are the women of the city? They're hidden in the cars, taken to some zoo. Worse still, where the disabled in the city. You think they don't exist. There are very many. But again, it is what we've actually conceptualized as the invisibles, the urban invisibles. Nobody sees them. Again, they run in parallel universe. They wake up very early. They have to be assisted because they can't compete with, the young men and a few ladies. That's the niche age mates. They're the ones who dominate the city. They hang on matatus. They run on the roads. You see them in border, missing cars in interesting ways and so on. But basically, the general public, you don't have. Myself, I'm terrified. I was telling some of my friends that I'm turning 50. I'm terrified that I'm getting old because old people have no space in the city. Families have no space in the city. Where do you see families? People think that we're not romantic, that we don't have love, that Romania can walk around with his wife and children and his one cat. It is because there's no space for families in the city. So this is a city that is hostile to almost its entire population. It's a very small margin that is catered for. Some of those crazy guys driving in the expressway and youngsters border who don't really care whether they live or die. They're the ones, that is a demographic that dominates the city, and is a demographic that has been provided for. And we must ask ourselves, how shall we ensure that this colonial legacy of dormitory towns, where we were not wanted in the city in the first instance, you had to get a permit to get to the city. And that's a legacy that we're continuing now, but we're continuing it using radically different instruments. Back to you, Denise.
Prof, you don't look 50. I mean, you don't even look like you're approaching 50, Prof. So perhaps one of the ways you tell us is how you've survived in the city this long enough not to look your age. But no, Elizabeth, so perhaps let's come to you. It's very interesting what Prof is saying. And we actually did a documentary where we followed the gentleman next to Dan. We went to where he stays in Kayole. Then we tried to imagine a day with him. How does he navigate the city? So perhaps you can just help us make sense. How do you navigate the city, and what are some of the challenges of navigating the city?
Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much. So maybe I can just talk about my journey. Yeah. So I was involved in a road accident when I was 3 years old. So I've been using a prosthetic leg for the last 25 years, 26 area. So of course it wasn't easy, you know, in the community, disability was seen as a curse. Slowly we are trying to embrace it. Like right now we are having inclusion in this discussion.
Right.
But growing up I would hide my disability. So I would wear those big clothes of things.
Okay. I think it's on.
So
Let me see. It's on. Should be on. Should be on. Okay. So should be on.
okay. So,
Yeah.
okay, so growing up as a person with a physical disability, it was quite hard actually to maneuver within the city center. So I was growing up in Nakuru, of course I went to Mombasa. Mombasa people are very nice people.
Okay.
Then life came and I had to move to Nairobi. Of course I work for, I'm a civil servant, so I work for the Ministry of Trade. So maneuvering just from the house to go to work was quite a big challenge. You will find me in a situation where I had to ask the conductor to stop the matatu so that I can alight. But the conductor kept insisting, you should alight when the car is moving so that you don't
Yes.
waste our time. You know, it's rush hour, why are you wasting our time? At times, I would find myself in a situation when the conductor sees me limping because I used to hide the leg, he will tell the driver to go, like I was wasting their time because people run for these cars during rush hours. Unfortunately, so because of such experiences, I actually had to go for my current prosthesis leg. It's more visible. I wanted it to be seen by people in the community. I wanted the transport people, the drivers, the matatu, even people walking in town, the pedestrian, to see that I have a disability. I even went up higher and brought crutches. It's somewhere here, but I wanted to stay here. Bring out a crutch so that people can see I have a disability and so that they can give me, and it has actually worked magic. You find yourself in town, you try to cross the road, and then the matatu driver sees you, and then he stops the car, and you move, and you actually cross the road. Even pedestrians actually give you way. Unfortunately, this is not the same case for people with invisible disabilities.
Right.
I have a physical disability which can be seen, but we have the invisible disabilities. So it's quite hard to maneuver in Nairobi City. I won't lie. And then, of course, the challenges were there. These days, I really, so I say I take advantage of my disability to just make it easier for me to move around within the city center, to go at work, to enjoy social life like everyone else in the community. It actually made my life much more easier. So I want to, of course, say we have different types of disability. Mine is just the physical. We have the deaf, we have the intellectual. So there are different types of disability, and we face the different discrimination, the stigmatization in the transport system and in our city center, of course. So yeah, so basically it's just something that I've learned to maneuver and to just go around with and or work well when I'm within the city center. Thank you.
Yeah. I think she can keep holding the mic because we might have problems with the other mic. We'll just see whether we can get that working. So that's your mic now.
Okay.
Mahesh,
Yes.
why don't you give us a response to what you're hearing? They are saying that the city is unlivable, and you represent us in the county assembly.
Yeah, you know, I'm supposed to be voicing what you guys are voicing. You know, city, we created 47 governments, 48 governments, 47 for the counties and 1 for the national government, but we actually created 95 governments because the governor, the speaker, different segments, we don't see sometimes eye to eye because the governor is supposed to be doing this. The governor is supposed to be making sure that you can commute to it. The governor is supposed to be making sure that you can get clean food and you know, order in the society and to make sure that the city is livable. The problem with Nairobi, like Prof said, is that by design it was not meant to be, you know, accommodating. And first, you know, with the colonial mindset, even coming in, you bring in the fundis. You're told even up to now that when you want to do a repair in your house, you have to get a permit from the county. And I think that's what we are pushing with the Governor Sakaja to remove sense, because if you are repairing your own bathroom inside, I don't think that there's anything you're doing to your neighbor unless you're making noise. You know, so unless, as long as you have gotten the approval of the residents, you've agreed that, you know, between this time and this time, we'll be doing these repairs. I don't think that you need to pay to repair your own or you repair your own bathroom. Some of these things are not necessary. But remember that, you know, the people who have led the city down. Because the city has been exploited, the people who have led it. From the legislators to the people who are actually in charge of the leadership, from the times when we had the mayors and now we have the governors. And what you have found is that even the places like Kileleshwa used to have the biggest chunk of government land. Now you cannot even get land to put the chief's office. It's
actually.
Yeah. So you see, so the city is expanding. And somebody told Kenyans that you can only make money from buildings. So every open space is turning into, you know, everybody's feeling. Mtu akiona a small space is seeing an opportunity to put a kiosk, to put a building. They don't value parks. You know, just an open space where you can have a breath of fresh air, you can go sit. We could be holding such a forum in an open space in the park, and we're talking about the city, and you have the proper view of the city. And this is very unfortunate, because also when we are having leadership in the city, we are not living by day. You go to the governor and you ask him that, you know, what is the most unsafe roads? He might tell you what he thinks it is. He might tell you River Road, but he doesn't have data to support that. He cannot tell you that, you know, in this month we had 200 muggings, these knife attacks, this is so many armed robberies, you know, how many vehicles enter the city. It's just guesswork for everybody. I think we need to start using data to, you know, to improve our city. We need to start valuing the smart cities. You know, we need to start valuing and also making the city very livable. You go to this section which is being destroyed, the Kileleshwa where we are now, but if you go to Pipeline today, you know, the biggest threat to this city is now the concrete slums. The vertical slums. The concrete slums are a big threat. You can go to Kibra, to Madai, to Mukuru, where the Mabati slums, with a bulldozer in one day and clear the whole place and start rebuilding. But where will you take the concrete from Umoja, from Roysambu, from Zimmerman, Buruburu, Kilimani, Kileleshwa?
And Kileleshwa.
You take all that concrete. So the city needs to be friendly. Even the buildings we are building, we are not paying attention to aerations. You know, the environmental demands, you know, the basic demands of environmental. There was a time when we were doing the elections and we rented one of the apartments, I think just 2 blocks from here. And we could not, in such a period, we could not sit inside because it was too cold. It was too cold. So it means there was a problem with the design and also the, you know, the actual structure from the time of conception to how it was approved, to how it was built. There was all this, and the neighbors were nowhere. Now you see some of these buildings coming up without any public participation. What is happening? That somebody hires people from Nevada, passes them in, 20 or 30, 40 of them, pays them 2,000 each. They come and approve. Then somebody at the NEMA gives a stamp. The people who approve the building to go up, and they go up. The zoning regulation still says that you can build ground plus 3, 4 floors, ground plus 3. But people are building 22 floors. People are building 22 floors because for every extra floor, somebody is paying 2 million shillings, somebody is paying 3 million shillings to look away. And this is very unfortunate that the only thing you have to do is that the middle class has to get involved in the governance of the city.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. The city, you have left it to, I can tell you, we are 124 MCAs. The average profile of an MCA is a matter of that. The average profile of an MCA is attack. Most people who wake up to go and vote. In this city, the general election doesn't matter. What matters is the party primaries. If ODM is very confident, I already know. Whoever ODM gives the ticket will win the seat. Yeah? Whoever UDA gives the ticket in Zimmerman will win the seat. Because UDA is popular there. So the party primaries is more important than the general election. But the middle class doesn't participate in the party primaries. Because that is not a mistake. It's that it's unfriendly, it's work, When I see you on video fighting Employer will not be very impressed and will say that umesha kujiinvolve na hii siasa mean that so you find also the slums, the people in the slums, the people who control them, the people who have order there, bring order, they are thugs. So these thugs are given tickets, yeah? Matatu conducts at newspaper vendors, Matatu conducts at people in and they're very popular. You find that it's the Kileleshwa,
Kileton. Yeah.
So the Kileton will favor you, and you know the Konda, your roots, everybody knows him and he's very friendly. Kidogo nasikia kamba he can serve election and win. Yeah. The person I replaced was another conductor in some of the most favorite. The person who is now the governor of Isiolo was a street boy in this city. Why is the middle class avoiding the MC? Because it's too junior for their involvement.
Okay.
Nothing else.
So I want to push back on what you define as a middle class.
Yeah.
Because there's an article, and you don't have to respond now.
Yes, no problem. Yeah.
There's an article in 2021 that said that the number of people who earn 100,000 shillings or more has dropped.
Yes.
Yes.
2021 article.
Yeah,
And they had a number, it was 80,000 people.
Yes.
So if 80,000 people earn 100,000 or more,
Then
National.
and our middle class is really not killing
that is in the formal economy. So we have the informal economy actually, who might be earning more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my point is that how we measure the middle class is incorrect.
Definitely.
That, actually, the Dana said that theory is that the middle class is that matatu. Anyway, let's come back. Let's come back because this city, there has been many attempts to try and correct the situation that we are all describing here.
Right.
We know that there have been multiple master plans that have been made for independence, 48. I think 65, Tomboya sketched some things also. People ratified these things in the 70s. I don't believe there was a master plan in the 80s, but you can correct me.
1979, Nairobi structure plan.
79, yes. And then 96, we passed the law of physical planning.
Correct.
To try and, again, arrest these things. You can tell I went to his class, yeah? So, what do you think has been the problem? Because one of the challenges that the city has, that we know, is that the planning has always been behind the people. So, for example, I was talking to Dennis Shali, I was telling him that the bypasses were initially designed actually to bypass the city.
In the
And that was the initial design.
Correct.
But by the time they were built, because they were designed in, I think, 79.
79.
So by the time they were built in 2004 or 5, the city has grown beyond them. So outer ring is no longer outer, it's inside. The southern bypass is not bypass. And so as Mwalimu told us back in school, we now need bypasses to bypass the bypass. So why do you think we're struggling? And why are we so far behind?
Yeah, I think my thesis is still very simple, and it's still the same thing. That I mean, if you're looking at planning and the way we've gone about it from, from colonial times to date, we plan for things. We don't plan for people. Even as we look at how those master plans and how they work or don't work, I've actually done two publications. One of them was called A City Without a Master Plan. I was actually arguing that those master plans are largely irrelevant. They're technocratic documents that assume that as long as you have got concrete, as long as you've got allocation of infrastructure and so on, that these would actually work. The other paper I've actually written is called, it's titled A City Without Citizens. And Dan, why do I say a city without citizens? For me, it is very, very sad because, yes, I happen to be part of that middle class and I happen to own quite a bit of property. And all that property is in Nairobi. But then whenever I meet his colleagues, they tell me that, my home is Bondo. They don't recognize me as a citizen
of the city.
Of the city. Yeah. So, and they always ask me, where do you come from? What do you mean? This is my home. So this othering, this alienation has ended up creating abstraction. And I think the interesting thing is the slums and informal settlements. They can show you, in those master plans, all those areas are shown as empty.
Yeah,
yes,
that's true. Yeah.
All those places, Kibra and all, is just a huge thing with a name. And then some things are actually put in there. I was known, I'm actually one of those Nairobians who opposed the expressway. The same thing, I was asking, show me the people. Show me the people. Do we have options that would actually impact people more and actually impact people better? And there's a fundamental problem with this country. We have Kenyan citizens, but we don't have citizens of the city. I keep telling people the concept of citizenship, it comes from the city. This came from Greek cities and city-states. This idea of rural citizenship didn't exist. But now we come in here, and everybody who stays in the city is considered to be an alien, a continuation of the same colonial legacy that we're talking about. Yeah. So that a lie, they tell him, he's even an MCA in the city, but fellows will tell him that he's from Sia. Yeah. And this man is from Western. And Ish, I don't know, from Kisumu. And the other one is from Nyeri. There are very few people who recognize that we are here and we're not going anywhere. We are citizens of the city. We are citizens of Nairobi. And I think this is something that even our constitution will have to deal with. I am strongly of the opinion that we need what we call situated citizenship, where this nebulous thing called Kenya becomes second, that's what becomes secondary citizenship. So that I can choose the city I want to stay in. And then I can be a citizen of that city, recognized by law. So that when planning is being done, I can go and say, I have a right to be consulted. Now, Mheshimiwa here was talking about the imported people who participate in the planning process. Why are they able to import them? Because these guys can come and look at the entire estate and say, Apana, hawa ni Wakikuyu. Those ones are from Central. And then they bring these other fellows, and you can't prove to them that these people are not citizens. So I'll be advocating for this idea that we carry identity cards to the cities we come from, and we pay taxes in those particular cities, so that if you're seen in my neighborhood, I can ask you, I have a right to actually ask you, because I've not been othered. I have a right to ask you, what are you doing in my neighborhood without my permission? But now you find somebody who was born in the city, this guy is alienated, a building is being put right next to his place, infrastructure is being put, nobody consults him. If you ask that same city, whom do you consult on the city processes? Yeah. How sure are you that they're citizens of Nairobi? Yeah. This is part of the problem, that we are designing for things. We are planning things. We are planning roads. We are planning water. We are planning, like I was saying, in fact, the animals in the city within our park are actually better accommodated and recognized. The Nairobi lion is a Nairobi lion. You can't take it to South. But the Nairobi citizen is not a Nairobi citizen. This guy is homeless. Whether he owns property in the city, whether he's a governor, and it's very interesting. Our governors, as I wind up the point, our governors have been very interesting. We had our first governor. Where did he run next? In Homa Bay. Was he a true citizen of this city? Question mark. Our second governor, where did he want to run? In Mombasa. Yeah. Is he a true citizen of this city? Question mark. This is the point, that we actually have this abstract, nebulous reality where the citizens of the city have been othered. In fact, they've been made invisible. Nobody bothers with them. And for political expedience, we import fake citizens, who then take part in the processes and rubber stamp. Yeah.
Just to add, having infrastructure is good, like Prof is saying, but what happens to controlling human nature and human behavior? Because you can have good buses in this city. I mean, you had the BRT and all these master plans that you're talking about.
We had the paint. We didn't get the actual BRT.
We had the BRT paint.
Who needs to hop out of a bus that is moving.
Those are the citizens you're talking about.
It's more affordable.
Right.
Yeah? What happens to that woman, or even to a person with disability?
Yeah, go on.
Or for a person with disability, yeah? Because we don't have audio visuals in our traffic lights in this country, yeah? So how do we expect them to move? And the students, and I know we have a number of students here, right. How is that affecting how they even access learning institutions? Right. Because, I mean, we already know what this government is doing in terms of help now, yeah? I'm not even sure they can be able to pay their accommodation. So how are they commuting from home to school and back? Yeah? So we can have all these master plans and talk about how we want to be more sustainable by buying machines and buses. But at the end of the day, what about affordability and accessibility and human dignity, which is a key factor of just cities? So as long as we do not talk about these things, then I don't think we'll have an inclusive city. And that brings me to sexual harassment, yeah? I don't even think it's 1 in 3 women who experience GBV in their lifetime. I think it's more than that. It's probably 3 out of 3 in this country, yeah? Because accessing a matatu, you hear somebody has their sexual advances, there are all these things that are out of order, but we are not talking about them. Yet we want to talk about hiked prices, which is actually happening even now. If it trains today, prices will be hiked, yeah? So if we do not have a system that can be predictable and that we can rely on in terms of planning, then we cannot even move from where we are up to where we live, yeah? And another thing is human behavior in terms of us consumers of public transport, because I think we're also quite unruly, yeah? We don't like order as well, because I'd rather a matatu is outside this gate than walk up to where the bus stop is. So human behavior does not only mean that we need to change what duty bearers are doing. We also have to look within ourselves as commuters and ask ourselves, what do we really need to change and how do we need to, change how we do things in this city?
Yeah.
That's actually a philosophical question. Is man the product of his environment, or is the environment eventually then what produces man? Because then it's very interesting that perhaps when you're used to fighting everywhere, then perhaps that then becomes the norm. Because the people who come from rural areas, when they are very calm, then they come into this city, they turn into beasts. So you see that the nature of this beast is what turns us.
Very true.
The soul of the city is, But Elizabeth, so to talk about the role of women in urbanization and making this city a bit more just, we've only had one governor in this city. But also, previously we had mayors who were female. I think we had one female mayor just before we got into the governor's position. Sometimes when we talk about as somebody who does gender justice work and as somebody who's very passionate about this work, why do we need to do that? Why do we need to involve more women into decision making, especially in this city that really is quite masculine, if you ask me? Yeah, go on.
Okay, thank you so much. So actually we need to have more women. Maybe if I look at women with disabilities, we are actually more marginalized compared to the men with disabilities. No offense, in terms of double discrimination. So you find yourself in a situation where the community actually accepts the man with a disability, but you as a woman with disability, you are not accepted by the community. You will find a man getting a wife. The community actually praises the man. And then you, as a woman with disability, you get a spouse or somebody starts dating you, and the community says, afadhali umemwonea huruma, amekuwa akipitia shida. So there's that thing that's still missing. So even when we talk about inclusive cities, we find that women actually face that double discrimination. So you find a woman with disability who's on a wheelchair who wants to take the bus. So the woman has to ask for help from the men, that is the conductors, and you find a situation where actually the men or the conductors actually have to carry her to her seat. And there's the dignity issue. And then in the process, they are kind of touched in places they really don't feel comfortable, and unfortunately they can't say or talk about it because anasaidiwa. Akilalamika watasema, una hataki kusaidiwa. So there's that aspect, like I'm saying, like as women, the city is really not that inclusive for us. Of course, we are talking about women without disabilities. So when we come to women with disabilities, that's even double, like triple. It's more disadvantageous for them to actually walk within the city, and of course the discrimination is far more. So we need to have more women in these decision-making places. We talked about having public participation. When we are having these public participation spaces, we have very few women, especially, of course, women with disabilities, and we're a bit biased there. So you find, you are talking about the BRT system. When they were building the BRT, I was actually very impressed. I'm like, okay, we have a station at Thika Road where people will alight slowly. But then when I went to see the stations that were being built, you could see staircases, like very staircases.
Yes.
I can imagine somebody without a disability is
stressed.
So me with a physical disability, how will I be able to maneuver? How will I be able to access
that place? Will I have to tell people to carry me? And of course, there's the issue of dignity again. We are talking about the Green Park. Oh, we said, oh, we are bringing the Green Park. It's going to be accessible. It's not accessible. It's quite far from some of our workplaces. How are we going to maneuver? We are talking about the National Council for Persons with Disability offices are also within the Wayaki way. When they were building the roads, like you were saying, they were not planning for people. When they were building the highway, the expressway, they actually didn't even put a flyover. Even the flyover, the first flyover is at Safaricom. Yes. So it's either you alight at Safaricom or you go back to ABC Place at the roundabout.
Wow.
And then you go back, and that's a National Council for Persons with Disability offices that is meant for persons with disabilities. So so actually we were way better with the other road compared with the expressway. Because right now we are more disadvantageous, and then of course accident road. We already had accidents. Now you want us to have more accidents because it's not easy climbing, like using the flyover. You can always trip and come down. Even at the roundabout or the ABC Place, it's not accessible, despite the zebra crossing. So there's a lot that we need to discuss, like as people. Like I said, I had to change so that I can be able to access and have an inclusive environment for me. Why not change the environment so that it can include me?
Correct.
Why not tell me, wewe ukae kwa nyumba, usitembe tembe? No, why not create that ramp? Why not have the visuals, the audios, the zebra crossing that, with signs that you can actually, like the ones with voices for persons who are visually impaired? Why not have these facilities for persons with disability instead of telling us to change in order to be able to adapt into this environment? So those are some of the questions that we actually really want as different stakeholders, of course, government, to really look at and involve us in several discussions when it comes to issues of course, urban cities and making it inclusive for everyone.
Then while she was talking, I was really just thinking about perhaps are we trying to reform what is working perfectly the way it was designed? And that I will bring Mheshimiwa here. Is it really possible to bring sanity into this city? Or are we trying to wash a pig and putting it on a high table and saying, now you are a Mheshimiwa? Then eventually it will find its way back into the mud.
You know, like I said, I think the best thing is that we need to involve the middle class in the development of the middle class. The middle class plus the very formal companies are almost non-existent in the city because the city is for thugs, cutting corners, everybody's a cutter's word and deal. But you know, one thing I want to inform, like Elizabeth, is that the women play a huge role in this city. And people just don't understand. The biggest voice in the election of anybody in this city is the women. Almost 3/4, you cannot get in if you don't talk to the women. It's almost impossible. If today I want to get elected in Dagoretti North, I'll just meet the women leaders. These boys you see with motorbikes, these boys, their voice, if a woman tells you that he'll vote for you, he'll vote for you, she'll vote for you. If a woman tells you that, you know, their preference is so and so, they'll not lie. But the boys, the men are after the money. They'll attend UDA rally in the morning, then they are in the ODM rally. What we need to do is that we need to drive our decisions based on data. Yeah. You know, if you are building a road, you're building a road based on which data? That expressway was informed by what research? What said that we needed that road and we didn't need to expand the ones we've come. I've come from a very nice city, just I think close to 1 month ago, Kyoto in Japan. And Kyoto was the capital city of Japan for more than 1,000 years before they changed to Tokyo. And if you go to Kyoto is when you'll see the beauty of urban development. You know, the city which is friendly to a commuter and also sana a pedestrian, somebody walking, because the Japanese walk a lot. And when they want to move, they'd rather do a bicycle. They'll not do vehicle so much. So you'll find less, if it's so far, then bullet train, or, you know, or a train or a metro train works for them. But you come back here, then you say, what mistake did we make? And you see, even the traffic lights are friendly. Even the pedestrian crossing lights are friendly. You see the sound it makes, like a bird chirping. It informs you that, you know, it's your time to cross the road. When you've finished crossing the road, it starts and it brings in the music for now, the cars. The city's its mental health, you know, improves. You come back to Nairobi, and you stress yourself. But you know, at some point, you know, like the planners, you realize that at some point we got the planning right, but somebody messed because of our greed. We got the planning right. Yeah. Like they say, it was a railway city. This city was planned for mass transport by the railway.
Correct. True.
And also light rail system.
Correct.
The challenge came in the implementation because, you know, if you realize Kitambo, Wayakiwe used to have a very big space in the middle, hapo katikati. It was supposed to be a tram system, hapo katikati. Mombasa Road the same, there was a space. Thika Road the same, Ngong Road the same. So the exchange was supposed to be at Hilton, where Hilton was built. So decision makers, somebody grabbed that place and built Hilton. You see, kila mtu nakata space yake. This is the most unfortunate thing you see in this city. That's, you know, when you are doing these things and you're grabbing spaces, then now the public transport system, you see even somebody's trying to build, the president is trying to bring in the affordable housing. Then you say that, why is he bringing in the affordable housing? Why not empower these counties to build houses, you see, which are going to be rented out by the counties, because the houses are supposed to just to control the rent. You're not supposed to force everyone to own a house. Me, I don't want to own a house. Me, I'm a techie. Me, I believe my wealth iko huku. Easy mambo ya nyumba, I'm not interested in. You see, I don't believe in amassing huge chunks of 1,000 acres. Pata nyumba 20. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in intellectual property. I believe, like my dad used to say, that, you know, the best wealth you'll ever have is what is in your head. A thief can come and steal everything you have, including your clothes. But as long as you have proper knowledge upstairs, you can start from zero and make yourself something. So that is more important. That is bigger wealth to me than the physical wealth we are fighting for. The city is being built without this data. You know, when I was campaigning to be the MC of Kileleshwa, I used to talk to the developers and I tell them that, you know, why are you guys doing this? Why are you building a house after house? You know, 13, they used to do 10 floors. Now they are doing 22.
20.
The person who builds 10 floors is now being overshadowed by 22. Even if you stay on the 10th floor, you cannot see the sun. But you thought you are so smart. The people are building 22 today because of the greed. The people are building 22 today. Next to them, you'll have 40 floors. So it is a circle of desperate greed. Then this greed is not sustainable because even there's a very famous architect. I know Professor knows him, who was the architect for the former President Moi. This guy believed in not buying any single piece of land for himself.
Yes.
He believed in grabbing. So every property, you know, you see him next to one of the bypasses, he has a very huge hotel there. Yeah? Grabbed. Upper Wayakiwe is a very huge property. It's grabbed, it's on the road reserve. You see? It's grabbed. So this life is so unsustainable that even the people who grabbed property and started with this entrepreneurship and went and built in Rongai, cut corners, mpaka that place turned into a slum. Because he believed that if he was not to follow the planning laws, the regulations and so on, anakuambia kwamba hata jirani, we kuja uweke tu nyumba yako hapa, unajua. So they block the emergency gateways, they block the places you should build schools in, they block the places where you should have a walking path. Now the city turns into a place where if you don't have a siren, you don't have bodyguards, and you don't have a quick way of getting away, it is very unfriendly to you. And you know, you understand from our sisters and our brothers who are disabled or able differently, you see the pain. You do. When I was in Japan, you see, it's very easy to get into a bus if you're disabled. It's very easy to get into a train if you're disabled. It's very easy to communicate. Everything is written. Hata kwa bus, you see the bus is coming. It's written the route where it's going to. You see, there's something communicating to you. And when as long as you have a smartphone, it's very easy to interact with whatever you are going to do, even in the supermarket. But this city is in such a way that it's everybody for himself, God for us all. But Me, I believe that if you bring in the middle class, you know, the belief in that we can do things guided by data, we have to automate, we have to, when a road is jammed with traffic, we have traffic sensors which can sense that this road is jammed, it's now full. Can we increase the frequency of the traffic lights on that route? Can we ensure that the cameras monitor that place? See, every junction we have a policeman. Because, like they believe in the first word, a human can be compromised. Systems cannot be compromised easily. Systems, sometimes you find, is the only thing which works for us. So,
Mesh, let me ask you. Yes, I agree. I think everybody can agree that the problem is, there's a problem. Right. But what's stopping, for instance, just Kileleshwa Ward from getting traffic lights that are synced? What would be the blocker?
You know, the problem with the traffic light is first, you have to lay the infrastructure.
No. That's technical.
Okay.
I'm sure there's a company that can do traffic lights that are synced. So the technical work is possible.
Yes.
Why are we not able to get, because what you're describing is a political issue, it's a social issue, a separate issue. Why can't we do it in right now?
You know, first, is it a priority? Yeah? Is it, you know, si watu wanavuka saizi. Because nobody has data on how many people have, and nobody there, you know, cares to keep data on how many people are knocked down. You know, I stormed Kenya headquarters one time. True. You see, between Communication Authority and the roundabout, James Gishuru, at some point, 1 week, we used to lose 10 people. 10 people, you know, just crossing opposite Nairobi school. And people used to get knocked down. That's why they put those small bumps. And I used to say, Kenya, you built this road from James Gishuru to Rironi, and it's not friendly to the poor people who are coming from the Waruku slum. They are crossing and they're being killed, and they are being killed in their tents every week. For you to lose 10 people every week in 54 weeks, you're losing how many people? 540. One road. You see, and that is not the road where you lose most people. Correct. But as long as people hide this data, they feel that they need not to build. It is not a priority. When I went to Kenya headquarters, they told us that you don't have money. But you see them building a road somewhere. But you tell them that this road, this bypass you're building in Mombasa, what kind of data, pushed the idea of that it's supposed to be built? Why don't you ensure that these ones which you have already built are friendly to commuters? Just opposite here, if you come from here to, you're crossing Chiromo, that place, how many people cross it? How many people are crossing into parklands? So many, but there's no place for commuters. The people are walking, the pedestrians. You
make a very strong point, because the latest data that NTSA was finally pushed to share, which I think you might have been, you said you stormed, you didn't visit, you stormed. They said that Wayaki Way is actually number 2 most dangerous road in Nairobi, and it's that section that you're describing, between ABC Place and the market, Kangemi. 37 people are dying every month. And then also Mombasa Road, same thing, and Outer Ring Road. And of course, Mwalimu, you've taught for many, many years. We know how to avoid pedestrian vehicular deaths. Yes. All the numbers that are coming from NTSA again are that 90% of deaths on Kenya's roads and 90% deaths in Nairobi are pedestrians. 90%. And so that's an obvious solution. I remember the DG of NTSA, the former DG, said that the solution to this was now to have cars inspected, which I totally disagreed with him, obviously. But what do you think? What are some of the technical ways that we can help?
I think it's still just an issue of focus. Of course, you know, Dana also practice architecture, and I think is a bit of, I find it a problem. I always tell people that, you know, I mean, if you're building a nice modern house with a car garage, a 2-car garage will be the biggest room in the house. And I've seen people, you know, doing these things, and this person doesn't even bother about himself, and doesn't bother about his wife and his children. He worries about the cars. You check the space that has been allocated to the car. In a normal homestead, this man has no place to even sit in the afternoon and have a chat with his friend. But his car has a place. It's called the car park. And then he has a garage. So I think we will need some very careful examination of the Kenyan brain so that we can remove the car from that brain. You see, we have a problem. You look at the city, you can see the cars are taken care of. Until initially it was the animals in the park. Now the cars, I feel jealous of cars, really, as a human being. Because you see the cars driving in nice highways, elevated.
For you, cannot see. From where you live, do you remember or can see a school next to where you live? Maybe by a show of hands. Can you see a school? Kwanzia shule ya chekechea, mpaka primary. So one person in the room can see a school. 3 people, 4, 5. Okay. What type of school? Those that can see kindergarten.
Raise hand.
Does a kindergarten have half an acre or an acre of space?
It is somebody's house.
It's a house.
It's somebody's house.
So the Physical Planning Act, if I remember, the Physical Planning Act has minimum requirements
Correct.
for such institutions.
For neighborhoods, correct.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, I think for kindergarten it's supposed to be an acre of space because we assume that little kids need to run around.
Correct.
And okay, those that can see a primary school because it's required to be, I think, upwards of 2 acres. Primary school, does that school have 2 acres of land?
No.
Okay.
But churches are the ones that have half an acre.
No. The churches will trigger me. Get triggered by a church. Okay. What about secondary schools? Because those are supposed to have the largest. University is supposed to be 100 acres. But we have universities in
on top of
CBD
that they used to be on top of Nakumat. These days, I don't know where they put them.
Yeah,
after Carrefour came.
So if you can see a secondary school, how much land do you estimate that is around it?
Depends if it's a private school.
Oh no, the best one. Let's get the best one. Who has the most land?
They always
Because
had land.
I think Kileleshwa has 2 schools. Is that correct?
Uh,
Those ones have land.
For which one?
Yeah, primary. How many schools do you have in Kileleshwa?
Primary, we have one.
You have
Primary.
One.
Kileleshwa Primary.
The one down here.
That one has land, yeah.
So we have secondary, we also have one, Kenya High.
Kenya High.
But Kenya High, you assume people assume that it's
It's a national space.
not only national, but it's still posh. It rarely takes people from Kileleshwa area.
Exactly. It's not a neighborhood school.
But I can tell you for a fact that as long as it's public, it has general needs. And for me this year, we have been trying to build infrastructure to support people with disability. Because the school was not built, all the hostels are in the first floor, Kwenda Juu. Yeah. And you have to use stairs. And they cannot admit a disabled, physically disabled, child, girl in the school. So I've talked to Principal Mrs. Wahome. I've partnered with some of the developers. I told them that, if you go to that school and build for me a hostel, one of them which can support the disabled girls, I'll appreciate. And they're building one. They're also building 2 toilets with allocation for the disabled. Some of the fights we are having with the greedy developers, I try to convince them that, every development you make is reducing, is devaluing your previous development. If you're building 22 floors, you built 10 floors, the previous development is devalued. The 1-bedroom houses you are being sold for 10 million, now being sold for 4.5 million. While the cost of living is going up and the thing is being devalued, and some of them they bought a lot of expensive material from China. And tell them that, you guys are just plowing, like we say in Lugo, you're plowing with the goats and what the chicken come after you do.
Yeah, to me that you're
So what we need to do, and also realize Kileleshwa is very big. Kileleshwa starts from University Way, roundabout to Kianda School. Wow. It goes down to Waruku. Behind Kianda School, there's a slum there called Waruku, and it comes to past Mudangari police stations and Lavington roundabout to Olengruone. We leave Lavington Primary Schools on the right, goes up to Lavington Mall, then back on Mudangari Road to Valley Arcade and back that way up to along the river to Arboretum. And I can tell you for a fact that that area cannot be served by one school. So you see a lot of private schools. We have Kenton's College, Nairobi International School. We have Braeside around. We have Braeburn, close to Rusinga School. We have Kileleshwa Academy. We have Kavina School in Kilimani. We have a lot of private, very high school schools, you know, schools where they charge 300,000, 500,000, sometimes even Braeburn they charge 900,000 per term to go to. You know, we're having a conversation with them that, you know, if Braeburn exists in our midst, then how do we bridge the inequality gap? How do we ensure that, and yesterday I was talking to one of the directors of Nairobi International Schools, and I wrote a letter to Braeburn School. I told them that, can you please, for the first time, admit 5 kids from the slums in Kawangware? And they said, it's a very interesting discussion. We can have it now because we have never thought of that. And I told them that I studied in a village school, in a Harambee school. And this Harambee school, we had an exchange program with a school in London called the Central Technological College. And this school opened our eyes to a lot of opportunities, a lot of skills you could develop. You know, computers, I started getting in love with computers because the kids used to donate to us computers which we didn't have infrastructure to support or to use. We didn't even have electricity. You see? So I believe that if you open up the eyes, especially for the kids, because you know Nairobi also has 300,000 kids in primary school in the city, but only 10,000 or so. You know, I think around 80,000 are in public schools. So the others are in alternative schools.
Right.
And these alternative schools, shule moja ni bar mchana.
Yeah.
You know, bar jioni, mchana ni shule. It's very common in the slums, where these private entities, you know, individuals have set up schools which are, you know, they're filling that gap. And of the schools, this city is growing, but the public amenities and infrastructure is not growing. The public institutions are not growing. The police stations are there in 1960 states. Kilimani, Kileleshwa, police stations have remained where they were in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. How do you grow as a city and the capacity of policing is at the state where it was? I think so we have to grow that. We also have to ensure, I've talked to the primary schools in WT, I've talked to the MP, that when you're doing this CDF, can you ensure that the primary schools, the secondary schools build going up? Can you think of at least 4 floors? Can you think of at least 4 floors? Because if you go to the slums like Katina, you find one school has 3,000.
Wow.
Yes. In Kileleshwa Primary School, the whole school has 3 feet. And you know why? Because of community. The slum child, the parents cannot trust that they can cross the road all the way up to Kileleshwa Primary. So if today you buy a bus to Kileleshwa Primary School, the enrollment will go up. You know, so many things. If you buy 2 buses, so now I even understand why people go buses. My main problem in this city has been the Boda Boda. Boda Boda is a very interesting tool, but it's also a tool of disempowerment. And it's a tool of disempowerment in this way that, you know, we started, especially politicians, we started this issue of, you know, empowering our kids, our young people using the Boda Boda. But now it comes to issue of illiteracy. You find a child has reached class 5, class 6, class 7. The parents goes and deposits 20,000 at Khan General for TVS, or at the Boxer people, they deposit that 20,000, then the others they can pay slowly. This Boda, if you go to China or India, cash is around $700. Yeah? So around 80,000, 70,000, and so. But when they buy them on credit here, when they buy them on cash here, is around between 150 now to 200,000. On credit, they're between 250,000 and 500,000. You see, these borders, the way the credit systems, the lending companies have structured the credit, they'll never make money from them. Yeah. The other thing is that they leave school very early, at class 5, class 6, class 7. They don't finish primary school. So they are semi-literate, they are disempowered, they think they make money just to use or to eat for that day. So it is a disempowerment tool. I believe that we need to reduce the number of borders. The other thing is that the cause of deaths sana sana saizi, is because of boda boda, and we don't have enough support for them. We need to have enough policing support for them. We don't have enough police officers with high-powered motorcycle cruisers to be able to intervene in case of a crime border, or to in case of an accident in a border situation. You have to wait, and sometimes it takes too long, for ambulance to respond, for the road to be cleared, for them to be carried from the place. And sometimes the border riders don't want to remove somebody from the scene until the police arrive and take the pictures of the scene. It is not fast enough. Then also the hospitals we build, the data we are using to equip these hospitals is not current. We are not checking on the top killers, pneumonia and, the trauma injuries you are getting. The X-ray machines are lacking. You'll find that the X-ray is either at Mbagathi and Kenyatta peke yake. These others, the ones in the wards, don't have an X-ray machine. But, X-ray machine is a very cheap thing. Some of them cost as little as 200,000. A mobile one, which you can use to take care of fractures and understand the kind of problem you're dealing with, then, prescribe the right medicine or the right treatment for them in a different referral hospital. I believe that if we handle the issues of mobility with boda well, it can become a very crucial tool of empowerment and of also transportation mobility in the city. One thing we remember NMS with is just building footpaths. And you see how the confidence, if you check, the country track has just been released. The country track, which is, measures the perception on the county leaders. The country track, which was released by Infotrack recently, shows how you perceive Governor Sakaja. He's number 45 out of 47. NMS, I sit in the Public Accounts Committee. NMS was a rogue man's empire. It was being run in one of the most corrupt. They were not tendering for anything. It was, if you see some of those documents, you'll cry for the city. But one thing which is very evident is that the people of Nairobi loved NMS.
Yes.
Because of what? It just worked. They just built a road there,
correct,
just make the footpath. You just wanted order.
Correct.
So you didn't care. You didn't know what was happening at the back end. But you just, as long as the order was brought, you saw the military officers, unasema kwamba unataka hospitali hapa, it is built, it's open in the middle of the night where the president doesn't disrupt. You see, that is what you wanted. But for us, we saw it was not working. So you tell the governor that, why don't you just do what works? Exactly. Why don't you ensure that, now at least you have the mandate? You're not a military officer who is not accountable to anybody. Can you just come and ensure that the hospitals are equipped, the roads are working, they are built and everything, and then the perceptions come, goes well, the garbage are collected. Correct. I think we need to find ways of getting involved in the governance of the city as the middle class and also the Nairobians as a whole, and ensure that the critical things are taken into consideration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to take some comments around the room, but I want to start with you, Elizabeth. Just discussing what's possible. Maybe if we dream a bit and see what's possible. You shared earlier about your experience when you changed your prosthetic leg. I want to ask you, are there some positive experiences you've had with Nairobi and with the transport system Nairobi that you wish were more regular?
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So, positive experiences. Of course, I've had a situation where you go to take a bus and the conductor, of course, can ask one of the passengers to at least give you the front seat, and you find very good people in the city who actually accept and they go to the back seat. So that's positive. I've used the railway system, the SGR, and then from the SGR there's the other railways, the other train. So the other train actually has a space for persons with disability. So there's a special seat with a sticker that has more like a wheelchair. It's blue in color. So that gives priority to persons with disability. If you have any disability, you are entitled to sit on that seat. Of course, there's also a place where you can, if you are on a wheelchair, you don't need to move from your wheelchair. Your wheelchair can be at a certain corner, and then it's installed some seat belts. That was a tick on my end. I know we had at KICC we had the lights, the There was one that had audio. I think it was Governor Sonko actually who installed it. But now I don't know if it's functioning, but it was a very good and brilliant idea in terms of accessibility. So talking maybe to support on what Prof was saying, let's have the universal designs. Let's ensure we have ramps, like everyone can use the ramp. Let's ensure we have sign language interpreters. It will be really nice to see a driver or a conductor or anyone from the city council just signing for Fidelis in case she's lost in town. Also having somebody who's visually impaired who can walk around the city without having to get somebody to accompany him or her everywhere, because you know it's quite expensive also having a guide or an assistant to take you everywhere. So that is something that I look forward to. And of course having issues of disability etiquette and gender integration, where we have, don't use certain languages because somebody has an impairment because of a certain gender. So let's have that etiquette within the city center. That is something I look forward to. And of course, issues of technological integration. Technology really plays a very big role when it comes to inclusion and ensuring that nobody is left behind. So let's not leave anyone behind. So of course, that small app that enables somebody with a disability to move around, you don't have to plan your activities. You can just go to the app to support you. That goes a long way. Of course, the assistive technologies that we have, we have ramps in the city center, but most of them do not work, unfortunately. We have parking spaces. You see the sign, there's a parking space for persons with disability, but you find somebody who's not disabled has actually parked there, which is really not good, because you can imagine I'm on a wheelchair. I need that spacious parking space in order to be able to come out from my car or maybe to come from the Uber. It's so the disability etiquette, the integration, the gender integration. So it's really important. So there's the positive, but I'm looking forward to more positives and more inclusion and not leaving anyone behind.
Thank you. There's a microphone coming there, so we'll just share your thoughts over there, and maybe we can pick it up. So maybe Stella, do you have a mic? Maybe we can, yeah. We'll need you to step a little bit forward so we can see you.
Kuja karibu hapa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bina Maseno, ED Badili Africa and Miss President Nairobi. So this is a very interesting conversation
Bina, if you don't mind,
to me.
just step a little bit forward for the benefit of the online audience, because you're right behind the light. So if you came a little bit forward so we can see.
The dangers of sitting behind. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Bina Maseno, ED Badili Africa and Miss President Nairobi. So this conversation is very important to me as a concerned Nairobi citizen, as a professor would say. So mine actually is a question to the panelists today. And I think the first one will go to our legislator. So number one is, even as we talk about reducing border borders, how do we incentivize people to stay in school in a country where even our leaders are saying even if you graduate, there are no jobs? You know, someone is coming to a university to give a speech, and they're telling you, by the way you're graduating and where you're going, there are no jobs. You know, so how are we supposed to incentivize guys to actually finish school when they're seeing graduates walking with placards around the city looking for jobs, and someone has a master's degree, right? So that is one. But even as we think about that, so even for those who have, let's say, like the school dropouts, what other options are there for them? Like, how can you go back to school, you know? Because we also have, so I work heavily in the informal settlements in Nairobi, and sometimes you have people who want to go back to school, and do we even have enough Ngumbaru schools, you know, for you to go back because you're 50 or you're 40, you're done with the Buddha business, you want to transition into something. Do you have the skills to help you transition from Buddha to something else? So where are you transitioning to? if a class 6 is trying to edge you out in the Buddha business. So what options, do you have? That is 2. Lastly, 3. So us also as citizens, when we go to public participation, are these some of the conversations we're having with our leaders? Do we even talk about the transport system? Do we talk about, security or even the urban planning in our own areas? Because if there's a time you can access these leaders because they want your votes is during, when they're actually campaigning. What kind of questions, what's the quality of our dialogue when we are actually having these conversations with our leaders? So just Saturday, I was in one of the informal settlements. We are doing some work there. And it is so sad when you interact with a young woman who has been assaulted or raped because of the urban planning system in that area. So in the informal settlement, for most of you who come from there, there's no water every day, right? Water comes like once a week. So in my community, it's once. It comes on Thursdays. And on Thursdays, you have to wake up at 4 a.m., right? Now imagine if you're going to work and you have to queue at 4 a.m. And at 4 a.m. sometimes you have to cross over to another building to go and fetch. So when she was going to another building to go and fetch so that she's the first person on queue to fetch water and come back home within good time to prepare for work, when she was coming back, she met a gang who raped her. So you're being raped because of a basic need, which is water. You're being assaulted because you can't access water. And you're being assaulted because of how the informal settlement you come from is being designed, how it is designed, Because where are we even putting the street lights, So you're being raped because of just belonging to an informal settlement that was not planned well. So are these some of the conversations we're having with our leaders when we are campaigning? And to Professor, my question would be, we have a lot of illegal boreholes currently, What is the impact of that? Because there's a balance, I believe, there's a balance between the water pressure underneath supporting the surface above. Sometimes I'm always scared that one time you'll have like a building that has sunk because of the space between the water underneath and the surface above, because we keep on drilling boreholes. And nowadays you see, sometimes we're drilling boreholes that don't even have water. And, like in the past, you drill a borehole and within 100 meters, you see water. Nowadays, you can even go 300 meters beneath and there's no water. And then we leave it open, So it means the water levels are going further, further and further below. So what is happening between the surface on top and the surface beneath, and what's the impact of that if we are hearing there are buildings that are coming up that are 40, 40 floors up, What's the danger in that? Will we wake up one day and a building has sunk below because the earth beneath cannot support the weight like above? And I think my last question would be to Stella, as someone who even used to select my university courses, depending on the time I need to leave campus to go home because of security, I was sponsored and supported to study in USIU. And I remember, because I've been born and bred up in Kayole, I used to be so worried if there is a semester where I have to literally have a class at night because that class is not offered any other time, because I have to shuttle between USIU, I get to Allsops. To Allsops, I take number 17, you see. So you can imagine I'm taking like number 17, it goes and puts me either at Outer Ring, and then at Outer Ring, I'm probably picking another mat if the number 17 is not going to Kayole. So by the time I get home, it's probably like at 10:30. For a class that ended at 9, because I also have to wait for the Mathri Ijai. That was my life when I was studying, in USIU. And I used to dread those evening classes. So what are the options? If today I'm harassed in a matatu as a young woman, where do I even report that? And do we even understand what harassment is? When someone gropes me when I'm trying to enter the matatu, they're telling you, I'm Rembo, way in gear apa. So how can we ensure that this information, infiltrates even spaces like the communities and campuses where even a conductor understands what is harassment? Like, if you just touch me, is this harassment? Because sometimes people feel like they have to either assault you ama mekushika kwa nguvu for that to be considered as harassment. Thank you very much.
Bina,
You can hand the mic right over to this gentleman.
Yeah.
Then, I was going to go for gender parity. But
Hi. Good
you can just
evening. My name. Okay. Wamesema nisimame. My name is Joyce Elema. I am the founder and CEO of Nyarmarsabit CBO. It's a community-based organization that is out to curb teen pregnancies and raise awareness around that. So mine isn't a question, rather a food for thought maybe. I have a problem with how we live as a society. Why is it that me as a woman have to bargain for my respect? Mbona? Like, I am a human being first, so why should I be worried? Literally, when I get out of my house, I put on some survival, mentality. Ndo, if I get out, I know Mutisia pale atanichokoza, niende pale ule mtu wa fruits atanisumbua, nikipita hivi some boda guy will say something. Before I get to the stage, some traffic officer ametuma watu wa boda na namba yake, mrembo nipigie simu, And it is a life I have to deal with daily. Why? And if I am to walk behind a man, ametembea to, like, from here to that point, no one has, unless ni habari yako mkubwa, habari yako mheshimiwa. And that is that. Why should I as a woman have to feel so much burden just because of my gender? And to talk about the sexual harassment that goes on in the public service vehicles, what kind of generation are we raising? Because you cannot tell me I am harassed in Kitengela, and another conductor, hawajazaliwa na yule, they are not brothers, they are not cousins, they don't know each other, but it's the same harassment I'll get in town, it's the same harassment I'll get in Kibera, it's the same harassment I'll get anywhere else in Nairobi. Why? Is it a thing we've so much normalized as a community, as a society, and now we are treating symptoms? We need to get magari that look like this, but in essence, I'll still meet with the same people. And if someone is going to harass me in a Bolt, if someone is going to harass me in an Uber, then they'll still harass me in a matatu. So where is the difference? What community are we raising? Is it a question to ask the parents? Is it a question we ask the government? Who are we asking this question? What kind of humans are we bringing forth to the world? Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can just...
Thank you very much. Do I need to stand?
Yeah.
No, we can...
Me, I can be seen, yeah?
Yeah.
Evening, everyone. My name is Eric Mungai, ED and founder of Yazoo Africa, and we run programs for boys. And I'm very happy with the question you've asked, because...
Actually, just go ahead and stand so you can frame me better.
Because everyone here, if you're female, your greatest threat is a man first. Yeah?
Yeah.
A gentleman, you don't experience the same kind of threat every day. And you know what she was saying, if you're coming from Kitengela or Kayole, you'll be harassed. You come to Westlands, you'll be harassed. You go to Kangemi, you'll be harassed. But if you're a man, you will not experience that kind of harassment, but you know that there are places you can't go because of another man. Yeah? Yet, truly, it's because of men. If I tell Prof here to meet me in Kawangware at 10 p.m., he will not come. If we ask Mheshimiwa to join us and come alone with no security, he'll be asking to do what? Yeah? Those are some of his constituents as well. But my question is, as we build these cities, how are we responding in a structural way to enabling the young men in our city to become sober and responsible in how they interact in this city?
Correct.
And to become protectors and not threats. Correct. And perpetrators? You know, the Boda Boda issue is an issue that I actually believe and think is one of our greatest undoing from the Kibaki government, because we gave young men an opportunity to make a quick buck on a daily basis, to come out, and as long as I have 200 shillings every day, then I'm a god and a king. Yeah? I'll abuse anyone I want to abuse. And now they're not just abusing their wives and their sisters at home. They abuse even those people that this city has been built for, the drivers and the cars. They abuse anyone on the street. And the day that he can no longer ride that boda boda because of not just accidents, but just his health. Yeah, because we have been having discussions and we discovered that pneumonia and TB has become such a rampant thing among young men in this city who are boda boda riders. They shift from being boda boda riders and they go to the matatu. That matatu conductor and driver, and Kamagera, who's calling people and pushing you and touching you to enter. Yet we never do anything to actually capture those young men and begin to create spaces for them. Because spaces do matter. The spaces we grow up in have a huge impact in the people that we are. And those spaces are the education, the health, the social, the ability to sit and have these discussions in spaces. I haven't been in such a space maybe in 15 years, to be honest. Yeah? I haven't. I remember this only used to happen maybe when you're in campus, because of where we grew up and we had social halls. And there used to be certain discussions that would take place. And these are the spaces that we need to have as a community, but also spaces that cater to the needs of its youth and the challenges and the threats that the youth in these cities experience and encounter. If in the primary school, if you're having about 320 people, full population of a primary school, I'm willing to bet that you'll find that majority of the people who've dropped out and gone to be boda boda riders are the boys. And then that boy, because he's earning 500 shillings every day, soon goes back to his classroom and finds a girl and impregnates that girl. That girl is out of society immediately. Yeah? She becomes an other.
Correct.
She gets lost in the data that we are talking about. To just as we are seated here, I had someone send me a message saying that, there might be a national tree planting day that is coming up in a few days. And I thought to myself, instead of us looking for national days to do some of those things, and it's good, let's plant trees. How about we begin to reclaim the spaces that have also been stolen?
Correct.
And plant trees and create parks in our estates. Yeah? Mheshimiwa, in this, in your area, how many spaces do we have where people can hang out? That corner shop that we are discussing and talking about today, they're actually just drinking dens.
Correct.
Here in Kilimani and Kileleshwa, every time you find like a small shopping center, the most important space in that small shopping center is a wine and spirit and a club.
Correct.
Yeah, and then we start to complain about the music and the noise. Yeah, but we don't have courts for playing, basketball courts. We don't have spaces for art. We don't have spaces for music. We don't have spaces for libraries. Yeah, we are fighting to safeguard the libraries that we have in this city tooth and nail because they are a handful. Yet our population has grown in leaps and bounds, but we don't have spaces where people can just go and relax and sit and learn. So as we have this discussion and as we ask ourselves, and even in whatever spaces we are in, as we implement and do things, I shudder to think at the thought of what will happen when these young men in this city finally get to their end and decide, let's destroy the city because I have no opportunities, I am sick, I'm a drunkard or an addict to one thing or the other. It will become impossible for everyone, whether you're middle class, upper class, or poor. All of us will be at risk, and it will be at risk at the hands of our young men. So we need to begin to ask ourselves, how do we make sure that our young men are expending their energy in a positive way within the confines of the cities we live in? Thank you.
So Stella, we'll bring you back to the question that Bina asked. What options are there?
So I think some of the options we have is the reporting and what I was saying, accountability mechanisms, especially for the SACCOs. And I will highlight an organization called Flown Initiative that actually trains SACCOs to develop codes of conduct and train their transport workers, but also avails phone contacts so that the passengers can report any cases of sexual harassment.
The gap is that we do not have all the SACCOs following this process. And so if we can train SACCOs and if we can have more champions of safe transport systems in the city and even out of the city, then we'd have more people held accountable for what they're doing. That's number one. But the other thing is to actually create awareness on the rights of passengers, yeah? But also the rights of the transport workers. Because to be honest, even the female transport workers have a lot of discrimination and stigma from passengers, yeah? But also police brutality is more on women transport workers than on male transport workers. So like Eric says, we need everybody on board. It's not, gender justice is not just about women, no. Even the male transport workers need to understand how to handle female commuters. Yeah? How do you handle an expectant woman, for instance? How do you handle a person with disability, the elderly, yeah? And maybe we would have more justice at railway. I still remember that time, you know, like and it has fair prices of fair transport, yeah? But then if you want to go that way, then you have to risk your health. Your legs risk, you know, like you might not even get to where you're going. So those are some of the ways that we can handle that. But to be honest, very few SACCOs have such mechanisms. Very few people know where to report any cases of sexual harassment. And that's where we continue to see some of the violations that we have today.
Dennis, if you don't mind, just pass the mic to Mheshimiwa to prepare his answer.
Yes, please.
Prof.
Yeah.
Boreholes.
Actually, before I get to boreholes,
yeah.
Let me just.
I want you to get to boreholes.
Let me just comment a little bit. I think Joyce, yeah. It is quite interesting the extent to which we've normalized gender violence and even basically sexual harassment. I've had to, in EcoBuild, I've actually had to put policies in place for my staff because some of the things they normalize outside there will get you actually locked up. Yeah, you know, holding somebody without their consent and things like that. But that's not the issue. I wanted to share something really disturbing. It tells you part of the problem is the normalization. Occasionally, I have a chance to work with my wife. And this time, we're actually working with governors. At the UN, we had created, there was a program we were running there, an executive program for governors at the UN. So I'm working, doing my stuff, and normally, of course, so when it comes to professional things, we don't romanticize or show things. And this lady, of course, she's a communication expert, properly educated. She teaches in Daystar, actually. She's doing a PhD there. Is also working, doing a communication stuff. And this governor comes, and in front of me, basically, you know, hits on my wife. He's holding her, saying, "Oh, you're very beautiful." You know, to the horror, quite a number of the governors, Governor Malombe then was a chairman, was horrified because they knew this was my wife. And then they told, "Oh, you've never met me, so maybe." "Oh, sorry, Prof, this is your wife." And incidentally, that same governor was taken to court for killing a young lady. Yeah, so you might have an idea of whom I'm talking about. So we've actually normalized sexual abuse.
Misconduct.
Sexual harassment to ridiculous level. And we see them on a day-to-day basis. "Oh, we're just colleagues, you know." No, you're not just colleagues. There is a point where you actually draw the boundary. But still speaking about that, we also. The problem is, and I think this is what it has to do with the built environment and this discourse that we're actually having. We have spaces that have actually created a very interesting male. This is a male that's abused in the environment. This is a male who does not know that they can actually come here and have a conversation. This is a male whose only idea of socializing is drinking. There's nothing else. There is nothing else. He can't imagine doing anything else. And he's been socialized like that. This is a male that the only projection of his power is to dominate or abuse another woman. So we really, and this has to do with these spaces we are talking about. Because these are the spaces where the fellows can become friends. These are the places where you can walk your dog. These are the places where you can paint. These are the places where you can have normal conversations so that you realize that as a human being, there's a lot more to do than simply drinking and abusing women. But you have men, and some of them are in very high position, just like Mheshimiwa's positions. These guys, you give them space to do anything, but the first thing they do is to hit the bar. And when they're at the bar there, they're looking for a woman. That's the end of their life. The fellow will say, wow, I mean, now I've got a bit of free time. Why don't I go traveling? Why don't I read a book? Why don't I,
do poetry like you?
Do poetry, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we actually have a boy child that, in fact, I told the president of this country that, what part of the problem that we actually have is that we actually have an entire nation of people who've actually been brought up with inferiority complex. Yeah. This has to be addressed, and it's a national problem.
Yeah.
Literally, 3/4 of the guys, even those men, the way they relate with each other, I mean, they relate like wild dogs. How I can put you down, how I can harm you, how I can, it is not like, hey, Prof, that was interesting. Why don't we meet next week? And by the way, I also know somebody else who's doing. Those are conversations people never have. Yeah. Like, oh, that woman has a beautiful ass. That is what the guys running this country talk about. It's not like saying, oh, we saw some interesting stuff in Japan. Why can't we hold a neighborhood conversation as to what you can do? So we really need to do a complete re-education and reculturing and normalizing relationships. That is possible to actually have positive relationships with opposite genders. Some of these guys have been brought up like wildlife. So that is the point I'd actually want to make on that. Bina, of course, what Bina was saying there is...
some wildlife behave really well, so better than human beings.
Definitely, groundwater, we have a number of issues. Number one, of course, you see normally the two aquifers. We have the permanent rivers further down, and then we actually have water. A lot of our boreholes tap from groundwater recharge, from surface water going down, and that higher level river has limited water actually, and all our boreholes. So number one, that is being exhausted anyway, just by the number of boreholes. That's why now if you dig a borehole, your yield is going to be very, very limited in the first instance. But scary for Nairobi is even worse, because now our surface water is heavily polluted. Nairobi and Mombasa, those are the two. Basically, you dig a borehole, people say, oh, it's hard water. It's not hard water. It's just the sewer. It's over-glorifying hard water. We've had so much pollution because our surface water itself and the river system has just become one big system. And then, of course, people are built in between and actually blocked opportunities for recharge. So we're not getting that cleaned at all. In fact, we are getting concentration higher. So a lot of boreholes now, in fact, there's some areas that I will not even advise anybody to do a borehole. That water, you'll be basically just consuming sewer anyway. Yeah, so we need, but how do you deal with this? In fact, and these are the linkages with planning. I was involved in the Johannesburg, it's called MOS, the Metropolitan Open Space System. You see, because it's through the open space that you're able to capture, to do the groundwater recharge. You're able to capture water and then distill it, and then it percolates pole into the ground system. But now when you build everything, it means that basically all our water gets drained, and then our natural drainage systems are heavily polluted. I was baptized in Nairobi Dam. Nairobi Dam is a sewer. I was immersed. Catholic.
Prof, where's the Nairobi Dam? Maybe many here don't know.
Immersed, and Nairobi Dam was clean. In fact, there used to be a club there.
Where was it? Where is it?
That's in Kibra, in the middle, of
it's good that
Kibra there. Now Nairobi Dam is actually more concentrated than your local sewer. And these are the natural spaces where we actually clean the water and take that through the underground system. So basically, when it comes to our boreholes, and first the quality of that water is quite questionable actually. But on the other hand, the only way to recharge is to actually create these open spaces and also clean our river, because Nairobi River is the biggest surface water management system that we have. But currently, it is actually a sewer. In fact, Nairobi River water is more polluted. If I was telling somebody, your own septic tank is cleaner the Nairobi water, Nairobi River water.
Yeah.
It is, actually. Yeah, so we need to deal with some of these environmental issues because it's a system. The whole thing is a system. But we never really look at it as the groundwater system is part of the surface water system. And then, of course, further down we have permanent rivers, but in fact, you're not even allowed to tap into those, but you won't even have the technology anyway to actually go deep there. But we do actually have a major challenge with
So no structural risk if buildings will not collapse. It collapse for other reasons, not because of...
Actually, most of the times, the buildings will collapse because of geotechnical conditions there.
Geotechnical is a very big word to say they built poorly.
Yes. And we had that. What was interesting, when University of Nairobi Tower was being done, you know, we're very happy that we had reached the ground, but now the one
careful, careful, Mwalimu. You know, I was working as an architect in that building. Careful.
Down there, they found volcanic ash, which actually means that the entire building, you know, was going to sink. But because that had been discovered early enough, what you do is normally what you call underpinning of the building.
Yeah.
So it's expensive. But the buildings tend to collapse simply because we don't look at the ground conditions in terms of the kind of capacity of the building.
Yeah. Mohesh, if there are questions about border. And
yes. So, Dan, I think, you know, she asked a very interesting question about incentivizing, you know, the young people to finish school.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always highlight to Nairobians is that, you know, one of the fathers you need to celebrate in this country called Kenya is Tom Mboya. Because one beautiful thing Tom Mboya left for this city was the halls, the social halls. At a very young age, and you know, he died I think in his mid-30s. And Tom Mboya already thought of a social hall. And you know, now we need social halls almost everywhere. Correct. Because we don't have enough spaces to socialize. We only socialize in two places. You're either in church or in a bar.
Correct.
So these social halls is where you would go to learn karate, you'll go to learn, you know, ajua, you'll go to socialize, you'll go to, you know, play bao with each other. Some of you will go and explore your acting skills. What if we give these young people opportunity now to, you know, explore their digital skills? What Baraza Media is trying to do here in not a very accessible manner. You know, it's not accessible to everyone because where it needed most in the slums, it's not available there. So if you create spaces where you avail free internet, you avail training rooms, you avail experts, they can discuss, you know, they can empower each other, the marketers, you can tell these people, this is how a new Flaco can be created. You remember if Mungai, this lady, because of COVID, and, you know, just say that, take a camera, take a phone, put in front of your interviewee and start interviewing. And now she's earning north of 2 million shillings a month. You know, and Flaco the same, you know, explore your skills. But now we can also create digital graphic designers. One policy I have in my household, you know, because, you know, the average household of an African is that you live with some of these people who come and, you know, find refuge in your house because of where they came from. Either the parents died or they come from rural areas and they don't have means of staying in the city. The one policy I have is that everybody who gets in that house and is either in high school or is leaving high school, you have to first learn how to code. So you have to learn how to code because, you know, everybody, even if you're a medic, even if you're a psychologist, at some point you'll have to know how to handle your own website, your own digital communication. You'll have to know some of these technologies, how to stay secure online. You know, so I teach them how to code. And one thing I've learned with 2 or 3 of them is that when you teach them full stack development, you know, then they know how to do data analysis. They can make 50, 60, 70, 100,000 easily online, you see, while still in college. And this is a baggage which now comes off Mijuzi. One of them just surprised me that he won $10,000. Wow. And I discovered that because they were not able to withdraw it from PayPal. You see? You know, they were sent this money, and because of money laundering issues, you just open a PayPal account. There's no way you're going to withdraw it. You see? So then they were stuck with that money. Do we tell him or we don't? We don't know, because, you know, he's our father figure now. We don't know whether we'll take the whole amount. You guys just tell me that you want this money, then I withdraw the money. I tell you how to withdraw it without, you know, raising the antennas of the security officers. Monitor all the systems. You know, some of these systems were automated, that if you detect such amount of money from a new account, then shut it down and stop the person from withdrawing these things. But one thing, you know, when I was vying the rural areas, I discovered one thing with the urban electorate and the rural electorate. There's a huge difference. That when I was vying to be the MP of Nyando. But when I realized the party Karatas, I came back to the city. When I came to the city, I was told, if you don't print a photo of yourself, nobody will know who they are voting for. So it means there's a huge urban illiteracy. Huge for young people, voting age, and also for adults. Your photo, and if you are having beards, and you change from beards to clean shaven, some might not recognize you. So that illiteracy is very dangerous, and it's very common in the slums, you see, because of various reasons. You know, we have not given priority to adult education. My own mother was an adult educator. She taught adults how to write, to read, write, you know, went to primary school at a very old age, you know. The Kibaki era student was called who? You know, you remember the teacher? Maruge. You know, the Kimani Maruge's case. If you can remember that, you know, it's encouraging. Some were complaining that the old student was traumatizing young kids. But you know, it was a very huge inspiration for the 50s, the 40s, the 50s now to go and take education seriously, not to buy a degree off shelves so that you can go and contest to be a leader in such and such a seat. Adult education is very important. We have to create spaces, and this is where the social laws can also create, and also where we can avail free internet and teach them how to learn these skills. Some of these youngsters in my household, some of them started speaking French because they were on Duolingo. So they were Duolingo all the time. Then I said, where did you learn this French? And because I was on Duolingo. So now I also Duolingo sometimes when I'm driving around. One thing, you know, she asked about public participation. I'll tell you for a fact that, you know, all leaders avoid public participation. When we remember public participation for us, MCAs, MPs, and, you know, and the senators and the governors, is that you are going to be blocked and asked for money. So there's no way I'm going to go to Kawangware or Muslim primary school and live without spending not less than 50,000 shillings. You see? So there's no way. And imagine sometimes you have like 6, 7 of them in a week. You cannot go in that area. Na mwesh ujabeba pesa. You see? Some people just come to that area. So when the leaders avoid, you are missing a very important input of somebody you have trust with. And some of them are on budgeting. Some of them are on infrastructure. Some of them are, there's a disconnect. And that's why you saw we had a problem with this year's budget. At some point we had to withdraw it because the input we are getting from the public was totally hostile to what we were proposing. You know, we are proposing this amount, these charges, fire, and some of them we are creating from scratch. But the public, at the public participation, the views were wild. And we say that, you know, the budget committee, you guys have to go back and, you know, you have to cut this, you have to stop charging people for this, you have to, this raise you are going to make, can you please, because if you do this, you're going to kill the people of Nairobi. The views, they used not to take the public participation seriously, but the views are going to, you know, be very hostile. So I think that we need to create more spaces which are very friendly, and then we know that when we come to those spaces to deal, especially on public participation, then can we suspend some issues? You know, it's very hard to suspend issues like somebody's hungry, but can we suspend them so that you have the leaders all coming? You know, we have the area MP or the area MCAs also from the whole constituency appear in one central place in Muslim primary school for Dagoretti North and give their views. Also, when you do public participation for Dagoretti North in Kawangware, the people of Mudangari, Lavington, and Kileleshwa Juu don't want to appear there. They say, hakuna vile nitaingia Kawangware with all that crime, without that, nini, the other thing we have to learn with this city is that we have to be the brother's keeper. We have to create equality. When I was coming in, I was telling Wakinadan the other time is that I did a survey in 2021. The listed companies alone in 2021 made a profit of 243 billion. The listed companies alone, which have a presence in Kileleshwa. This money, you see, somebody in Kileleshwa, Rafter Road, or Mutangari, or Juu, Riverside, you find somebody with an Olympic-sized swimming pool. But somebody in Waruku is going 3 kilometers to look for water. You see, that inequality is extreme. Somebody in Kileleshwa has a child going to Breban, paying 900,000 per term. But somebody has been given a chance at public primary school. The kids cannot go to school because they cannot afford something to wear, or because they don't have anything in the stomach to eat. You don't know the role food plays in taking kids to school. You don't know what a bus will make. If I had 2 buses, Kileleshwa Primary School will be filled, because I'll ferry kids from Kibra and Waruku, where most of the kids are coming from, to come to that school. And the kids are coming now, you find most of them are coming there because at least the parents can either, shepherd them well until they get to school, or they have free access to some mode of transportation, which they make them go to school there, because the kids in the middle class, most of them don't go to the public primary schools, because the public primary schools have not been consistent enough with their curriculum. And now we are trying to avoid them. Everybody wants to go to, somebody wants to, this small private school here and there, which at least have some sanity, even if they're teaching our public in style, at least they are well equipped, or you can work as parents and equip them well. So I think it's all on us that we work as a team to ensure that we create a space like this. Already with a team from Baraza Media, and I think from some donors, we are trying to create one in Waruku, a space. There's a facility there by the JKUAT, Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, where we are creating a space. It's not being used now after the campus was closed. The Westlands campus was closed. It's in Kileleshwa. We are trying to talk to them to at least allow us there. It's more than 1 acre. So if we go and create a space, have internet there, make it us able to hold such a meeting, such a forum in such a place, to ensure that we can teach each other, we share skills, we can teach the next graphic designers. Because I believe that if you teach a young person riding motorcycle today and making 10,000 shillings per month, if you teach them graphic design, they're going to make a very decent amount. And they know they have a skill. If you teach a young person who is knitting how to sell their products online, it is a worthwhile skill. If you teach somebody to do web development and work on Upwork or Fiverr or freelancer.com, it is a much more worthwhile skill. If you teach them how to write proper scripts online and sell them online, it is a worthwhile skill than teaching them how to write a border. So it is all on us. Some of you know how to inspire others, but also have access to corporates who can sponsor, the NGOs and so on. I think we need to create a good space for all of us to exist, especially the young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. So I'll take 2 more comments. One from the gentleman right next to me and one from the lady right there, and then we will close.
Right.
So if you
That's
go ahead,
fine.
sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
My name is Stephen Odongo. I have a group called Rabongo Welfare Group, but I'm also working with the government. I'm a civil servant in the Ministry of Interior. So my concern is about the way Nairobi is behaved. And actually this one is about I can call about the leaderships. Our mentality is about that. When I am a leader, I will work for something that short term. I'm just focusing on something short term. Because if I finish this, then next time I'm going to reclaim to be elected again. So that makes that we don't have that proper planning where that we can have, if I plan this one for 10 years, it will be something that will help the people of Nairobi. Take, for example, when you design the road, there are some specific things that you need to consider. You have persons with disability, those who are using the wheelchairs, you have those who are visually impaired, and you have those who cannot hear. But we don't consider that, because when I went to Germany, I see the way these roads are being designed. We're using some blocks. You know, when we are designing our roads, they're just using some blocks that even to cross from this side to the other side, it is so challenging. Then the other thing, now this it goes to Mheshimiwa, just at City Hall there. You know, we're talking about ramps. When you go to City Hall, actually people are confusing with the ramps and slopes. Now in fact, majority of the buildings, when they impose that you need to put ramps, now you see there's slope. You know, I looked there, I think, Mheshimiwa, if you have visited that, it is annex building. I went there to take my yellow fever. And then, you know, it takes me time to climb there and even to go. It was my son, there, I have my son here. You know, he used to, it was very terrible, because even it can make you to be disabled, more disabled than so it's a slope. We are just going like it's not something that you can use it. And then when you go to the buildings, even there, to access, even you want to see the governor, you cannot be able to go there if you are a person with disability.
Okay.
So I think we are being limited in some way or another. Maybe I have something that I need to go and share with our leaders, but because of infrastructure, you are limited about that.
Okay.
The other thing, now let us come to the design of the way we build the house. I think some of us who have been in a pipeline, that's another disaster. You see, there's I don't know if Mheshimiwa can come up with a policies where that we need to limit the way we put up our houses. Because I'm being limited, I cannot go up there and enjoy the way the sky is and how the weather is. If I go to rent a house, I must look for the ground floor. Now all the time, ground floor. Na sahi ambapo naona pale ground floor naona kana mapanya zikubali. Ndio kwa nyumba, hizi zingine zinaitwa these maids. Wakati wa mvua zinaingia hapa. So person disability is really being limited of doing the need to enjoy. So we talked about social
amenities.
Social what?
Amenities.
Yes, where you can socialize. You see. Now I'm just being like that. But I thank God, and one of that person that I need to stand for myself. Because those who complain, I must just tell you the reality. You know, when I was employed by the government, I went to the office was not accessible for persons with disability. There's no infrastructure, there's no facility, there's no toilet, there's no ramp is not there. Now I have to force them to do what? To put that ramp. I told them, yes, I'm giving you the opportunity. Then I'll not come to work unless you put that. The facility that can make me to serve. And I'm not requesting, it is my
right.
It's my right.
Okay.
So in Nairobi, we need to see the way we design our city. And we be inclusive for everybody. Usiseme tu kwamba najua sasa mimi nakuchukua leo, tena unafanya mambo zingine mwingine akikuja, wachana naye. Take for example, the sister talked about the parking. We used to have a parking opposite for persons with disability, and it was only one. Nowadays, there's no, that parking is nowhere. It's not on again.
All right.
Yeah? And you have just left the guys who are actually around that city hall, ambapo wanafanya parking box.
Okay.
they have taken over. When you go there, you give them 200 shillings. You know, the city is losing a lot of money just going to people's pocket. So I think this thing that's another thing we need to stop and come up with a way we can design our city. Even if my professor has talked about when you are working with your wife and children, there is no way you can work in the city with your family. It also gets me hard when I'm working with my wife and my children, and then people are just looking at you. One way I'm going to baby.
Okay.
People don't do that. Yes, I'm a person, but I have that feeling. Yes, I need to have somebody.
Exactly.
Is it not true? So you have somebody that you can look for. Come finish it. We need to have that. And also have that feeling.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I think you are now a representative here. Go and, if those policies are there and somebody is not implementing it, then enforce it. Because there is no way, as a city board, where you have the engineer, that can need to work on it and then they put so instead of so I don't know which school they went when they're studying about this. There's a difference between a slope and a ramp. You know, a ramp is a way that you can just move it very nicely, you just go and enjoy it, but not that you are,
Okay.
You'll talk long.
Thank you. There's one here.
I want just to inform him that, you know, I was just checking on the order paper because I know that you have a disability bill which was being pushed, and I'm seeing the order paper for 7th of, tomorrow is 7th, yeah? 7th of November, which is tomorrow, that we are discussing disability. Okay. So thank you for your input, and we'll consider it.
All right, everybody.
You know, Kileton Matatus end at 9 here, and so we need to
wrap up, yeah?
So that we are very just even in our event.
Yeah.
So there was a question here, or nothing?
Right next to you is a final comment. The lady here
Final
with
comment?
the red headband.
So I think we don't have a mic here. Do we have a mic here?
Yeah. That'll be the last person.
Yeah, just try and keep it brief so that then we can release, yeah.
Okay. Just switch it on. There's a button under there.
Try.
One of my main issues, I had two issues, and one of my issues was on the issue of public participation, that we need to push for a much more meaningful and purposeful public participation. And that is why I'm saying maybe certain comments from Mheshimiwa have also said why sometimes we don't have quality public participation. However, it is still upon the leadership to try to create and devise ways and give platforms or create spaces for citizens to be able to engage so that we can be able to have meaningful public participation. My other contribution is that the door still steps at the governor's door, because he has the mandate of running the city. So if we want a just city, all these voices, we need to get away, whereby we also have a way of raising our voices and making them consistent. My last comment is that for issues of gender, people with disability, all these issues of inclusion, they will only be effective if all of us, including those of us who are in advocacy, not only the decision makers, appreciate and participate like they are our issues. Let us not leave the issues of advocacy for probably women issues, probably people with disability, to be that it is only the person with the disability who will talk about them, because until I engage with it and I talk about it like a personal issue, and therefore I become a burden, such that if I'm invited to this meeting and I'm really fussing about this building, what happens is that tomorrow I will not be invited in that meeting. So the proper activism is where all of us embrace, make these our issues, and actually make our leadership be accountable. For me, there is a lot of legal framework also providing for all these things we are talking about, whether it's the wrong ramp being done, all these things kind of, there is a legal framework providing, whether it is the issue of the gender harassment, all these things. But the enforcement is actually the problem. For me, the leadership has to take charge so that the spread is fast and even, and it touches everywhere. That is why you are first among equal. I also want to take this opportunity to appreciate the appreciation of issues for Honorable Arai.
I know I talked about road safety earlier on. And when you think about road safety, and something Professor said that most of these roads, technically, they are designed to kill us. Our roads, how they are built to kill us. Like, there's no road safety in mind when they are doing the roads. And then how? We need that, when they are designing the road, they need to understand the necessity and the importance of road safety. And then secondly, about the city, Nairobi. Nairobi is a very beautiful city. But what is happening right now, it's chaotic, it's madness. Because there's human traffic, there's border traffic, there's cows traffic. It's crazy. So for me, when I think about the navigation of Nairobi, I think about the inlets and the outlets. So we have everyone coming to the city, but the outlets are very few. Nasiati haziko, but because of corruption or whatever, they've been taken advantage of, and those roads, or penye panaweza jengwa an outlet, you find that haiwezi because of certain reasons. So design, and also inclusion. I'm a road safety advocate and I'm a woman. And when I tell people I am a road safety advocate, they go like, So we need to normalize these things. We are hearing of road accidents each and every day, but we're not talking about road safety. Like, people don't talk about these things. I once wanted to talk about road safety to a certain television, and I was told that's a very sensitive topic. We can't have you on board. So, and road safety, it's personal for me, but we need all of us. We all use roads. We walk on them, we drive, but what are we doing? We're not having these conversations. So, yeah, that's just my point. And thank you so much for creating such a space.
Thank you so much, guys.
Dana Seda, it's been extremely illuminating and fantastic, but I'd like to, I don't know whether any of our panelists have any final comments.
I think they've made their final comment.
They've made their final comment.
Yeah.
All right. Then there's a fantastic app called Civic Voices app that is trying to change how we do public participation in Nairobi. They've actually just signed an MOU with Nairobi County so that then we can digitalize public participation. Check it out. Civic Voices app on the Play Store. Is it available on the iOS or it's just on Ngojeko line? That's mine. Back to you, Dan.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'd like to thank everyone who's participated in this. Thank you so much for coming and making time for us. We appreciate it. We are here every Monday. This is the Social Newsroom. My name is Dan Aseda. Until next week.
All right.